Oh, Tony, what's this you're talking about? I have no idea what the hell a Chypre or a Fougere or an Oriental is, man. Why are you classifying fragrances, man? All fragrances smell the same, man.
Well, if you would allow me to explain, I could help you with that a bit. Classifying fragrances can be a rather complex and esoteric field of knowledge. However, once you get to learn the different fragrance types and their representations, it becomes a little easier. So I'm going to show you basically the main fragrance types, and I'm also going to show you how to kind of classify them with your nose so you know what you're smelling. So the first type of fragrance is my personal favorite type of fragrance, and it is called a sheep. You pronounce it like sheep with a ra at the end, except you don't say sheep ra, you say sheep. You roll your tongue. And it is spelled Chypre. You've heard me talk about this type of fragrance before in my videos, but I thought I would go into it a little more in depth. The sheep is a type of fragrance derived from its name is French for Cyprus, which is an island off the coast of Greece. And from what I understand, the concept is based on materials obtained in Cyprus, and it lends part of its namesake to the perfume Chypre de Coty, produced by the famous perfumer Francois Coty, and that was made in 1917, I believe. I have a small decant from the 1950s here, which is quite rare and elegant. Sheep fragrances are based on a very simple three-note structure: bergamot, labdanum, and oak moss. Or, to put it more broadly and simply, citrus, resin, and oak moss. And the citrus, resin, and oak moss, thanks to the resin in the center, they all kind of attach to each other and form sort of a trifecta. And it's sort of to describe the smell, it's sort of a mossy wood smell, although at times it can also be resinous, it can be fresh and citrusy. It all depends on the type of sheep. Perhaps the oldest existing and most representative sheep is Mitsouko by Guerlain, which was produced in 1919, 2 years after sheep. And while this, Mitsouko does not smell as good as it used to, it's still a very good representation of what a sheep, like a classic one, smells like. It has sort of a starchy smell. It has a good bit of iris in it, which isn't a regular in all sheep fragrances, but this one gives you a basic idea. And this one is available in eau de toilette, eau de parfum, and pure parfum concentrations. Actually, the best concentration, is the vintage eau de cologne. However, that's been discontinued, and if you can find it online, it usually fetches pretty high prices. Also, for a good, relatively inexpensive sheep, check out Roche Femme. You can also find citrus sheeps like Eau de Lancôme or Eau Sauvage by Christian Dior, or of course Eau Sauvage's slightly better feminine counterpart, Diorella. There also exist darker, more woody aromatic masculine sheeps like Antaeus by Chanel, which is one of my personal favorite fragrances, and Halston Z14. There also exists floral sheeps like Dear Essence by Christian Dior, or Aramis 900, which is a men's fragrance, believe it or not. It smells very similar to Aromatic's Elixir by Clinique. Alright, next we're going to go over probably the most common fragrance classification for masculine perfumery, and that is known as a fougere, spelled Fougere, pronounced fougere. And fougere is the French word for fern, and although the fragrances don't really smell like fern because fern doesn't, necessarily have a scent, it is still an abstract concept. Well, not really abstract, it's pretty simple. Basically, the main fougere idea is lavender, coumarin, which is a synthetic aroma chemical derived from tonka bean, which has kind of a hazy almond sort of smell, sort of like newly mown hay, and oak moss. Oak moss, of course, as you are picking up, I'm sure, is a integral part of a lot of classical perfume structures, and it's a damn shame that they're restricting it so much. Now, the first fougere supposedly was Fougere Royale by Hobegant, I believe it's pronounced, and they sell Fougere Royale at stores like Neiman Marcus. However, from what I understand, it doesn't quite smell as honest to the original. Two other contenders for the first one are Wild Fern by G.O.F. Trumper and English Fern by Penhaligons, and those would probably give you a better idea of what a classic fougere smells like. However, one of the most affordable classic fougères that you really wouldn't think is a fragrance by Fragrances of Ireland called Patrick, and this really gets across the classic like coumarin, lavender, fern kind of smell that they were getting at. And this is relatively inexpensive. I believe I got this bottle for $40, which is good for this size bottle, and it's extremely well made fougere. I highly recommend this fragrance if you want to know what a purebred fougere smells like. The most popular representation of fougères, however, lies in the aromatic fougere, which is a subgenre that developed around the mid-20th century. And to people, it could either smell like a forest or it could smell like a barbershop. Famous examples include Brut, Dracar Noir, Gucci Noble, which is now unfortunately discontinued, and believe it or not, another popular representation of the aromatic fougere genre is Cool Water! So basically, the fougere and aromatic fougere genre can, spread broad over a number of fragrances, but the basic idea is that it has lavender, coumarin, and oak moss. So just look to pick up and detect those things when you're smelling a fougere or an aromatic one. Oh, by the way, speaking of cool water, I should probably get into aquatics really quick, although I'm not quite sure if cool water constitutes as an aquatic. I don't really have any popular aquatics on hand. That's not really my thing. However, it's a pretty easy genre to identify. You can find it in stuff like Aqua de Jo, Bulgaria Aqua, etc. And it's basically based around the note of cologne, spelled C-A-L-O-N-E. And cologne is an aroma chemical that gives off a sort of salty cucumber smell reminiscent of the beach, and it's been very, very popular in modern masculine fragrances. I believe it started with the fragrance New West by Aramis, produced in 1988 or 89, and ever since then it's been taken off, and it manifests itself in so many fragrances these days that I'm sure you could think of 5 offhand if you're watching this. The next genre we have is Orientals, which is a classic and well-represented genre that is becoming more and more popular as time goes on. And basically, the first Oriental was Shalimar by Guerlain, made in the 1920s. And from there, other fragrances of that type developed, such as Vol de Nuit, Emeraude by Coty. And by the 1960s, there were, men's Orientals like Habit Rouge. And of course, in 1980, the finest Oriental of all, in my opinion, was created, Pateau Pour Homme. The basic idea of Oriental fragrances is, it's supposed to smell spicy. Lots of resins, woods, spices, stuff like that. Other classic representations of the genre would be like opium, taboo, and, believe it or not, Old Spice. This is a quality fragrance, guys. You can now get a spray form of this at Walmart for less than $10. I highly recommend buying this stuff before it disappears someday. One offshoot of the Oriental genre is called the Gourmand, which is a fragrance that, it's similar to the word gourmet, and it represents fragrances that have like a foodie smell, like vanilla, chocolate, caramel, etc. Gourmand is probably my least favorite genre. However, there are some, classics that I really do appreciate from it. I would say if you have a constant sweet tooth, then gourmands are the fragrances for you. Classic examples of gourmands include Angel, which was arguably the first gourmand, Hypnotic Poison, which is a decadent and lush vanilla gourmand that has like a marzipan, vanilla almond sort of smell to it. Pie by Givenchy, which has a very sweet vanilla smell to it, sort of similar to custard in my opinion. Or even Rose Shaw Man, which has a very strong, heady chocolate and coffee accord. Another popular genre of fragrances, and probably the most associated genre with fragrances, is florals, which, as you might guess, are based off of the scent of flowers. And the floral genre is actually very complex because there's different types of flowers. There's rose, lily of the valley, which actually you cannot. It yields little scent, so most lily of the valley fragrances are synthetic reconstructions, if not all of them. Violet leaf, lang lang, freesia, tuberose, You name it, if there's a flower, there has probably been a scent created for it. Famous florals include Chanel No. 5 or Joy, which are both abstract florals and don't necessarily represent a single flower. Bala Versailles, which is a skanky-ass jasmine fragrance. Pretty little white florals like Kai, this is a gardenia fragrance. My personal favorite white floral is Diarissimo, which is the first Lily of the Valley fragrance. And even strong tuberose powerhouses like Poison. Believe it or not, there also exist masculine florals, such as The Third Man by Caron, which has a very strong indolic jasmine accord mixed with an aromatic fougere. It's actually a very pretty composition. Another famous masculine floral would be Insensé by Givenchy. Another more recent fragrance subgenre is ouds, based off of agarwood, and it's not. A lot of companies are jumping on the oud bandwagon, and it's not that I hate oud, but it doesn't necessarily do much for me. It doesn't, smell that great on my skin. However, you'll find plenty of ouds out there and plenty of oud reviews on YouTube, and it's something that I'm sure I will get into eventually. But for now, I haven't really found an oud kick or an oud fragrance to make the note work for me. Another genre that primarily fits masculine fragrances as well is woody aromatic. This genre is represented by such fragrances as Terre d'Hermès or Guerlain vetiver. And chances are, if it's a vetiver fragrance, then it's bound to be woody aromatic. Vetiver is one of my favorite notes. And last, but certainly not least, my other favorite genre of fragrances, classic eau de colognes. These are the original fragrances first produced in the 1700s and 1800s. And they're basically very simple citrus, orange blossom, floral medleys that aren't really meant to last long, but they really give you a burst of energy and effervescence and just smell absolutely gorgeous, in my opinion. Classic examples of that genre include 4711, Eau de Cologne Imperial by Guerlain, Royal Lime, which is not an eau de cologne, but it's a classic citrus, and basically that's what eau de cologne genre is. It's essentially a genre that represents citrus fragrances. And also another classic, Acqua di Parma Colonia. While I'm sure many other fragrance offshoots and types exist that can't really be classified as fragrances evolve, I was just going over really the basic genres to give you a sort of clue on what you can be smelling, what to identify with that genre, and what to know what something will smell like when it goes through classification like an Oriental or a sheep or something. I hope this video proved to be beneficial to you. I hope the knowledge suits you well, and I look forward to doing another review for you all soon.